So if you follow me on Instagram, then you know that this video right now is a lie. It is 100% a lie. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean I didn't film it this week. I filmed it last week because this week I've been in Yellowstone and haven't had a chance to film it. So I guess the video is just a foretold future? I don't know. Let's get into it. Will Simpson here, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the 3 lenses that I have used my entire career. Now, there are a gamut, such a large variety of lenses, and depending on what you're shooting, these 3 lenses may or may not work for you. If you're doing more specialized stuff, like let's say you want to do super wildlife stuff, well, then you're going to need a bigger lens. Let's say you're wanting to do some like really intense portraiture, well, you're going to need, not necessarily, but you might want a lower f-stop lens for that specific thing. So these are just the 3 lenses that I have used for landscape photography, portrait photography, wedding photography, couples, families, and client shoots, and more. But the first lens that we are going to talk about is my RF 1535. Now, this lens is a beautiful lens. This is a 15 to 35 2.8. Now, I primarily use this for landscapes. You can use it for portraiture, but I found that when I do that, I stick around 35 because going wider tends to kind of bow things out and make things look a little unnatural. Of the 3 lenses, this is the one I use the least. I like to have it, but it's generally too much for wedding, like being wide, I can usually get away with the 24-70. It's primarily just used for landscapes, which I am using currently in Yellowstone. Now, the second lens that I use, which is the one on the R5, is the EF. Yes, EF, not the RF. The EF 24-70 2.8 Mark II. Now, I have had this lens since I got my original 6D Mark II back in, 7-8 years ago. This lens is a workhorse. I have used it for everything. Anything and everything I've used it for. I've used it for landscapes. I've used it for people. I've used it for portraits. I've used it for everything, wildlife even, all of it. I use it for YouTube. I use it for shooting pretty much anything because it's such a great range. 24-70 is, I don't know if I would go as far as to say the perfect range for an everyday camera, but it's pretty much as close as you get to the perfect lens for everyday use. It's great for family portraits. It's great for traveling, taking vacation photos. It's great for landscapes. It gives you a wide with a zoom. So I love that lens. Now, I haven't upgraded to the RF 24-70, and I really need to because it's an older lens, but honestly, it's so good. I've used it for everything. I absolutely love it. So I highly recommend getting that one because you might find that one you use all the time. Now, just as a note, I use Canon, but every brand makes this trinity of lenses, the 1535 or around that, the 24-70 or around that, and finally, this is not my most used, but my favorite lens I have ever used. This is the 7200 f2.8. So the 7200, it might not be my most used lens, but it is by far my favorite lens to do portraits with or do anything really that I can with. I even do landscapes with to get more details, and I take multiple photos and then combine them, and I'm able to get more details because I can zoom in on sections and I can combine the photos. But this lens is so freaking sharp, and the one thing that I absolutely love about it is the bokeh when it comes to portraits. The focus on the subject is the sharpest I've ever seen in any other lens, and the bokeh is just so dreamy and beautiful that it just makes your subject pop right off of the image. Absolutely love it. And me personally, I like to shoot portraits with this over using like a 50 millimeter. Now, there's no like set standard of what millimeter to shoot a portrait with, but a lot of people say, if you want a realism shot, like what the eye sees, 50 millimeter around there is what the eye sees. But I'll tell you, 70 and above, oh, it is amazing. Absolutely. Try it. Just try it once in a while. You'll see what I'm talking about. This right here, that's where it's at. But lenses are an interesting thing. So those are the 3 lenses that I primarily use. Now, when it comes to lenses and choosing which one to get, these 3 are all about $2,300 each, $2,000 to $2,300 each. And that's pricey. That's an expensive, that's a lot of money to shell out for a lens that you might use here and there. So you can get the f4 of all of these lenses, which is about half the price. But this leads to kind of the age-old argument, which is better to get a better version of the lens or the body. Now, in my personal opinion, I think it's way more valid or way more important to get a really good lens than it is to get a really good body. Obviously, if you can get both, that's the best case scenario, but if you can't, I find that the lens is more important to be a higher quality than the body is. And I am going to do a video at one point where I take a cheaper body and a more expensive body and an older lens and a more expensive lens, put them together and do an image test to see really if there is a difference, and if so, which one is more valid, because that'll finally settle the age-old argument. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, like which one would you prefer to have, or which one do you prefer to have a better quality of? Also, another thing, lenses last a lot longer. Bodies, there's new bodies every single year, upgrades, all this kind of stuff. Lenses tend to last. Like this EF 2470 I'm filming this on, I've had this since I got my 6D almost 7 years ago. And it's still a freaking workhorse, still just amazing, absolutely amazing. I do most of my work on it. But that pretty much goes over the 3 lenses that I absolutely love. Now, I'm not saying you have to get these 3 specific. I have a 50mm 1.8 that's $125, and that lens is amazing. But these are just the 3 that I would recommend. Honestly, if you only want to get one lens, get the 2470 because it's incredible. Anyways, I digress. Back to what we were talking about. Those are the 3 lenses. That's what I think about lenses. Let me know what you think. And also check out the description for some goodies. Don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe button. Other than that, I have some cool things coming from Yellowstone for you, so stay tuned. But I'll see you next week.